Tonight, should we shoot foreigners into space?
I have an idea of someone who should go into space, and it's not the Guatemalans.
T-minus 3, 2, 1. It's time to debate right here on Crossballs.
Comedians posing as experts.
Pot is good for everyone.
Women are designed for sex.
Hunting is self-defense.
I drive drunk all the time.
Debating real people.
I'm not gay.
It's totally immoral.
Who don't know the show is fake.
That's a lie. You're an idiot. Die.
Out of the crossfire, beyond hardball. This is Crossballs.
I'm Chris Tallman. Tonight's topic, science in America. Clone sheep, stem cells, and beyond. First up, we have the chairman of a futurist think tank, Future Technology Initiatives, Andy Morris. Also here is the author of Genetic Engineering, Food and Our Environment, Luke Anderson. Thank you for being with us. Question of the day. Does human genetic research cross a moral line? Luke, let's start with you.
The plan, some of these techno-utopians, is for, in several hundred years, there to be two classes of people, one of whom are gene-rich, the elites, the people with all the money. They're going to choose the traits for their children out of catalogues. And the naturals, those of us that don't have artificial chromosomes, are going to be the low-paid service laborers. This is the social vision coming from some of these people.
And this is actually part of the future. Andy, how do you respond?
Whether you like it or not, cloning is coming. You understand? It's coming. It's here. The genie is out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back in. I think the benefits of cloning are manyfold. All right, for one thing, cloning will create the ultimate control group for experiments. If you get let's say you get a bunch of clones, and you put each of them on a different diet to see who gets sick first, or, it will put to bed the nature versus nurture debate forever. There are great Americans alive right now who, I wish we could clone. I wish we could clone and we didn't have to lose them.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about, for instance, Jesse Helms is 84 years old. Did you know that? Did you know that Pat Robertson, a great leader, is 74 years old? Did you know that Rush Limbaugh, I don't know how old he is, but he does not take very good care of himself. All right.
What do you think about that, Luke?
I think that these people need professional therapeutic help.
Hang on. We could have used stem cell research
to cure Ronald Reagan's Alzheimer's disease. Wouldn't people be into that? And then, wouldn't you want to clone him and have Reagan 1 raising Reagan 2?
Well, do you want that?
Cloning is so prone to serious side effects, and maybe these guys, all these kind of right-wing fascist types, will clone all themselves, then they'll all get sick, and then, maybe it's not going to be such a bad thing.
Now let's move on.
That's my point.
What are the potential benefits and dangers of genetically modified foods? Andy, let's start with you.
We could take the DNA of locusts and combine it with potatoes so that we have self-harvesting potatoes that unearth themselves when they're ready to harvest. Things like that are possible. Things like that are absolutely possible. The seedless grape brings up the possibility of a boneless fish. Do you understand? All you have to do is imagine it. All you have to do is imagine it, and it can become a reality. Okay, one of our other pitches is something called martyr mammals, all right, where we...
Martyr mammals?
Yes. You can actually have a turkey in this instance where you can break off its legs, its drumsticks again and again, and they will regenerate and grow back. So animal rights groups love this because you don't have to kill all these animals. It's instead of the suffering of millions of animals, it's the suffering of one animal. Although that animal's suffering will be a suffering as yet unknown in this world. That is true.
I mean, I hardly even need to debate this guy. He just speaks for himself, really.
All right.
Instead of creating a farming system that is actually more kind, the idea is to create animals that are better suited for intensive factory farming conditions. For example, genetically engineered pigs that are more docile, so they're less likely to chew each other's tails off because of the distress of that.
How about a genetically engineered pig where you use spider DNA to create a pig that spins a continuous strip of bacon? So that one pig, only one pig, and we don't have this...
That's horrific. All right, let's go to the audience for a Q&A ball. With us is a pastor at Living Well Christian Church, Reverend Alvin Hawkins. Now, Reverend Hawkins, you believe cloning is against God's will. Tell us about that.
Exactly. Creation is God's design. God designed man. He created him for a relationship with him, not for man to play God. That's wrong, and that is not acceptable.
All right. Does people agree with you? Andy, let's start with you. How do you respond?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that making clones is essentially the same as having identical twins, and is it so different when you do it on purpose?
Really? It's the same thing to you? All right, now, Andy Morris has actually paid for a public service announcement that defends stem cell research. Let's take a look at this.
Mom, why did Daddy die?
Well, his liver failed and we couldn't find him a new one.
Can't we just make a new one?
Maybe. But the government says we're not even allowed to try.
Aren't we always supposed to try?
Yes. But they say we can't because those are things that God doesn't want us to figure out.
The government sounds mean. Why would God make us so smart and then get mad when we figure stuff out?
Well, I don't think he'd get mad. That's why I support lifting the ban on stem cell research.
The doctor said Daddy's disease was hereditary. What does that mean?
Hurry.
Wow. Hang on, so let me get to this. Is this true? Is it possible that God would support cloning? Reverend, I'm going to start with you.
Absolutely not. God created man, body, mind, and spirit. Cloning, what does that do? All of us have defects.
Okay.
But that does not prevent God from loving us and providing for us. And our responsibility is supposed to be love each other no matter what our condition is. And it's appointed unto each man.
We should love each other
die.
to death, is what it sounds like.
How do...
You're saying just go ahead and let people die because of this hocus-pocus idea that kidneys and livers and lungs have souls.
It's these kind of attitudes that's going to bring America crashing down in flames.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me sum up, and you would love that. It sounds like you would love
every
that.
empire crumbles. You know, this
That's
kind
exactly
of
what you want,
this kind
isn't
of
it? That's
attitude
what he
is
wants.
just
That's what he
this
wants.
kind of attitude is just hastening the day. Is just increasing the amount of hate.
You're
People
probably cheering
elsewhere
it up.
stand up with this weird flag.
Gentlemen, I got to cut you off. Next up, space exploration, shooting for the stars, or does the moon have a dark side? Stay tuned.
Let's move the people of stars to the dark side of the moon.
Welcome back. Outer space, Big Bang or black hole? Joining us now is the head of the Move On or Nothingness Society, Matthew Parker, and a board member of Americans for Democratic Action, Don White. Big question. NASA's 2005 budget will be approximately $15 billion, more than twice what we spend to protect the environment. Should we be paying so much to explore space when we have problems right here on Earth? Don, let's start with you.
Absolutely not. It's outrageous, counterproductive. It's irrational to spend the amount of money that we're going to be spending on space at a time when our own country, our own world is sick.
Matt, go ahead.
We believe that the solutions you're talking about, they're all in space. And the first step towards finding those solutions is building colonies on the moon and in Mars.
Tell that to the thousands of Guatemalan children who don't have running water. They don't have drinking
those
water.
Guatemalans, I have a place for them. When we have the first people that need to establish the moon colonies are going to be the miners. We're going to have someone go up there and dig the holes and make the colonies. Let's send those Guatemalans there. Let's employ them. Let's send our homeless there. Why not?
Wait, he wants to send the homeless into space. Is that even what?
I'm giving them jobs. They'll no longer be homeless. They'll be moon patriots.
I have an idea of someone who should go into space, and it's not the Guatemalans.
What is so dangerous is that these guys clearly sound like raving lunatics, and yet they're in the charge of huge amounts of money in the most powerful country in the world.
Not enough money. We need more.
We have 25,000 people dying every day from hunger. This isn't some adolescent little fantasy game.
With hunger, let's invent the replicator. The replicator will turn matter into food. But you want to stop
what
that
by
replicator? It's been on Star Trek for at least 50 years. It's something that creates food. And you guys say, oh, that'll never happen. Well, if you had told a housewife about the microwave in the 50s, she would have gone, ha, that's crazy. But now it exists. Are you really going to deny that NASA hasn't brought us many wonderful discoveries and inventions, baby-enriched food, the purification systems in pools? Let's talk about Silly Putty, the robot dog. These are all things that have been invented. But do you know how much the robot dog has advanced in just the last 10 years? It's something to be proud of.
Is the robot dog a serious advancement, Don?
In my judgment, it is not.
No.
When we still have
Don't
millions,
be afraid of robots.
when we still have millions and millions of people slipping into poverty without a dignified life, without a diet that actually sustains life.
Don't be ignorant. Those millions of people, if they all had robot dogs helping them hunt for food or helping them gather food, robot dogs will all have one in the next 10 years, and they'll help us out in our everyday life. It'll be wonderful.
All right, let's keep moving. Will NASA ever discover life on other planets, or is this just sci-fi nonsense?
It's, at the present time, somewhat unknowable, and we shouldn't spend one dime to discover whether they're there or not.
That's racism. That's racism. That's racism. You're racist.
How is that?
You're racist.
While millions of children go to bed hungry every night.
Racist.
How is that racist?
You're being a racist.
How?
Anytime on Earth you make an assumption about people that you don't know, that's called racism. You're making an assumption about some people or beings that you've never met. You've never been to Mars.
But I wasn't derogatory about them. I simply said it's unknowable.
You say they're unknowable. If I said you're unknowable, you'd take offense to that. They're not unknowable. They're obviously out there.
So let me ask you a question. You think that we should somehow be the crusaders stepping into the universe
let me paint a scenario for you, though.
Good point.
Well, what's going to happen if we let the Chinese or the Russians or the Germans find the aliens first? That could be a travesty for us.
How?
Think about it. Well, what if these aliens have the ability of psionic mind blast? What if they have the ability of time travel? What if the Chinese get all those things and they'll want to defeat us with them? That'll be terrible. But what if they can morph into us? You could be an alien for all I know.
Well, who cares
That's
about
why
any
he's so
stuff?
upset about it, because he's an alien.
Let's move on. Should space be militarized? We've been batting this around. Let's get to it. Matt, should space be militarized?
Of course.
Why?
Because everybody knows in the art of war, the highest ground wins. And, of course, space is the highest ground. We've got to get up there before they do.
They.
Who's they?
Everyone who's not us.
Do you agree with that? Don, do you agree with that?
I can't think of a more insane comment so far during this program that we should militarize space. Everyone knows that the war we're presently engaged in is a horror story, and you want to export that?
No, I want to stop it.
And move it to space.
If we had a Death Star up there, people would not want to mess with us, my friend. If we could develop the technology to crash asteroids into the Al-Qaeda, you'd be thanking me. You will be thanking me. Thank me now.
Oh, come on, stop. Get your hand out.
Thank me now. Because you're so closed-minded, so narrow-minded, you don't want to have that possibility. Well, believe me, we all have had a dream of putting our own city on a giant electrical guitar and making that spaceship go through space and find a new homeland.
What the hell are you talking about?
I think that's uniquely your dream.
No, it was on the cover of Boston's "Don't Look Back" album. It's a common dream in our society.
No, it's not.
But with guys like this, we won't even have a space ukulele. As long as we keep spending money on gay marriages and education and all those affirmative actions, we're never going to have our giant space guitar ship that we all want.
Nobody wants that.
Let's admit it.
No. Next up, why is science education going down the test tubes? More Crossballs when we return. Welcome back. Is science education just science fiction? Joining us now via satellite is the host of his own popular educational program, The Science Dude, Jerry Tomlinson. Now tell us, how do you teach science to kids?
Well, Chris, we found on my show that it's important to get kids excited about science. I found that humor helps a lot. Just for instance, the other day I was doing a report on volcanoes, and you know, just to talk about the effects of lava coming out of a volcano, that's pretty boring for kids. So what I did was I referred to the volcano as a volk-oh-no. You get what I did there?
Well,
see, volk-oh-no is, you know, oh no, meaning it's dangerous.
No, I understand. You changed the word.
You know, another time I referred to tigers as tigers, you know, like the growl of a tiger. That's the humor that's really funny.
But
and the kids like it.
Don, does that help kids learn about science?
No, I think we are seeing reflected one of our problems in education, that it's an oversimplification, I think.
Now, you brought a clip from your show with you today. Let's take a look at that. This is The Science Dude.
Plants can't go to restaurants, so what do they eat? Plants eat the sun. How? The sun is made of energy, just like food is. That's cool. Plants eat sunshine like you eat French fries. They're both yellow. Plants have special tiny cells that convert sunlight into plant food. Without these cows making more plants for bugs to eat, we wouldn't have or circus elephants. Stampede buffalo or skateboarders. Think about it.
That video didn't explain anything at all. Don, is this really the best way to teach kids about science?
I was going to apologize for what I said earlier, but this video reinforces, I think, my opinion.
Hang on a second. In his video, he mispronounced the word cells. He called them kells. That's not...
Chris, can I say something about that? That was a mistake, and obviously it isn't our best clip. But I think that, you know, these kids, 11, 12, 16 years old, they don't understand science like you and I do. But when we create that excitement within them, that makes them have the ability to, later on to do science.
This would be an insult to a 16-year-old. And, of course, most 11-year-olds would be insulted. What you're doing is you're dumbing down your program because you lack confidence in the ability of young people to understand real science.
Okay, good. We got you. Gentlemen, I got to cut you off. All right, settle down.
What's the problem with our
Stop talking on top of me. We're out of time. Last word to you, Jerry.
Okay, well, I'm very upset that I didn't get out everything that I wanted to say, but as the last word, I will say this. Hey, listen up, kids! The Science Dude DVD is coming out in 2 weeks, season 1. We're all talking about Antarctica. Boy, those ants are crazy. Think about it.
You're a moron. Next up, science for the public. Now museums. Now you don't. Stay tuned.
On the next Crossballs.
Should we be teaching TV trivia in schools?
We want to make them better viewers because that's how they're going to get their information.
I'd like to know what the hell planet I'm on right now.
Welcome back. Tonight's topic, science in America. Joining us now via satellite is a research scientist at Fordman Institute, Dr. James Rogers. Doctor, should we be focusing more on science education so the American public can understand what their tax money is being spent on?
No, Chris, unfortunately, I think you've got that backwards. Ironically, the public is impeding scientific advancement by asking us questions, demanding moral clarification, etc. And that's why I formed my consortium called Behind the Curtain.
I think what he's saying is pretty worrying, the idea that science should be behind closed doors and that some process that's completely outside democracy of a group of elites should be making the decisions about the future direction our world's taking.
Yeah, but obviously you don't get it.
My time needs to not be wasted. I spend 75% of my time writing grant proposals, petitioning my own government for permission to do what I do. You know, stop making us waste our time explaining
Listen to your
entitlement.
Listen to your entitlement. It's disgusting. You know, how about what if the public, you know, this thing called the public, you know, there's lots of other people other than you in this country. What if people actually don't like the decisions and the kind of scientific research that's being taken?
If you don't understand how microwaves work, if you don't understand how Viagra works, so what? Just shut up and enjoy it.
Let me explain why he wants to be behind the curtains.
Why?
Because the military-industrial complex does not want the public to know what's going on. They just want to glom on to even more than 50% of the federal budget.
I feel like if we're ever going to have a Babylon 5, if we're ever going to have a Deep Space Nine, you people are getting in our way. We need to have those stations.
But who decides whether we have them or not?
We need to control the wormholes before the Chinese do.
You're being paranoid.
Essentially what you're saying is that you don't believe that ordinary people who aren't, you know, what you define as scientists, have a right to have any input over what you're saying. Am I getting this clear?
I would say that's exactly correct. We scientists are important to your culture. It's as simple as this. If you leave us no choice, we will have to go underground. We'll still exist. We will just separate ourselves from society. And listen to me, when our winged children fill the air, then you'll know what we've been up to.
Let's go to the audience for a Q&A ball. Sure, go ahead. The ball's in your court.
Yeah, my question's for the scientists on the screen.
Yeah.
It isn't a reason that the public needs to understand science so we can weigh in on the moral issues like cloning?
Human cloning is just a sci-fi fantasy. See, this is the problem with explaining science to the public. This guy hears information, his brain can't comprehend it, and he blows the whole thing out of proportion.
Well, why should we trust you scientists? I mean, people could be illegally cloning all over the world. Why should we believe you?
Luke, is there any possibility, have you ever seen any evidence of cloning before?
No, there haven't been any. There haven't been any currently, but there are certainly private corporations that are selling the possibility to...
So it's possible, but you haven't seen it. All right, go ahead.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's gotten to the point where a guy reads something in a magazine, and all of a sudden he thinks that makes him sort
of an expert on the subject. We have to stay informed, or guys like you are going to be doing dangerous experiments in our laboratories.
We have to stay in our laboratories because the public won't keep their noses out of our business. They will
not leave you alone, or you'll end up creating monsters. I think we can both agree that the idea of a human being cloned is horrible and should never be allowed to happen. Imagine a whole planet full of identical humans, everyone looking the same, talking the same, dressing the same, acting the same. Frankly, Chris, the idea is disgusting.
Holy cow, that's all the time we have. We'll see you next time in more. Let's get caught between the crossballs. Good night.
The Daily Show heads to Boston for 4 nights of John, and John.
Don't act like you don't want it. Oh, I know that you do.
Indecision 2004 coverage of the Democratic Convention begins tonight at 11 on Comedy Central. Watch some of the biggest names in comedy do things that could ruin their career.
So that's how it is around here? A bunch of angry comedians? I guess you don't watch the show.
Tough crowd, where the stars come to show their love. Weeknights at 11:30 on Comedy Central.